Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I was just still in awe. I think we've never been so close to soap bubbles and ants in our lives while waiting here for the trailer of the Locus exhibition and film program here in I was rolling behind us. Next to me is Mr. Cao Guimarães, the special guest of this artist talk this evening. My name is Dana Litzen. I will be moderating the talk. What we're going to do tonight is actually kind of an experiment. For those of you who speak Dutch, you will be familiar with the format of the program Zomergasten. This is kind of a Zomergasten, but just with clips from the work of Cao. So we will be screening some short films in their entirety in the program. The longest is about 7 minutes, so that's a bit longer than you're used while watching clips in the talk. And we will be talking about them, and then at the end of the talk, of course, there will be a lot of time for you to ask questions, but also we will be screening some films that are, the one is still a work in progress, right? The Zoom, or is it finished already? It's finished, but it's an installation, and we will have some footage from that. But at least it's kind of a sneak peek or a sneak preview of something that's not in the exhibition. So it's for your eyes only. Cao, welcome, and while we welcome you, maybe we could listen to a warm applause from the audience for you. So we decided we do a little run through or walk through your work. We're going to maybe also hear you read a bit from the text you wrote to accompany your work. We discovered that you're not only a filmmaker, a visual artist, a filmmaker both for cinema and documentaries and feature films, but also in installation works. But you're actually also a gifted writer. So we'll have a lot of hybridizations of art forms here going on tonight. The idea was that you would start to talk a little bit about your background in filmmaking, how actually the camera came into your life.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, Dana. It's a pleasure to be here. All these 10 days, very, very nice moments in this Museum. And yes, I should talk about my background, where I am from, my name, my kilos. I don't know, but only my background. Okay, I'm from Minas Gerais, Brazil, which is a state in the center of the country, which is very interesting because it's a state that connect lots of different areas in the country and have lots of influence. And it was very rich in the 18th century where they found gold and lots of minerals, and lots of people comes to Minas Gerais to become rich or to find gold, and they have lots of slaves coming from Africa also. So it's a region that is very diverse and in the mountains, and at the same time it's very introspective. And it's a area in Brazil. It's very conservative. We are very conservative in Minas Gerais. I don't know why, but the Catholic Church was very powerful there, and at the same time, it was the state that has the most political revolutionaries in the country. So conservative states and revolution has some links, no? Of course. In my childhood, I used to go a lot to a farm, and I stay. In the beginning, I lived with my grandfather, and my family lived with my grandfather, who was amateur cinematographer and photographer, and he has in his house this lots of cameras and 16 millimeters projection of the family. He loves to do that, and he was also a doctor of child, a pediatrist, And I remember this place, this mysterious, incredible place, the laboratory of photography, where I had the first meeting with image, just appearing from the chemical process, which becomes something very strong in my perception of this event, this mysterious event. Uh, in one side, I had this stuff that was very important for me, and the other side, we use a lot to go to a farm my father had, and in this farm, I was in contact with this some old woman from Africa, from the black woman that loved to tell history for child. Some histories very scary, some other ones very crazy. But this moment was very important also to to increase the imaginary power, of the storytelling that we have in Brazil, in the countryside mainly. So in my beginning, I am from this place which has a lot of Baroque influence, the church, the Catholic Church, and it is, in a way, it is present in my first photographical works. I remember that I start making photography, and while younger, so you are very fascinated with techniques, and I used to put a lots of levels of image and superimpose image and trying to to do some very special effects in black and white image in that time. So it's a kind of surrealist baroque image I used to make in that time. Also, in this moment, it was like the 80s. I was like 18 years old, and I think it's something from youth. No, you really like to be linked with special effects, and of course you change very much. It's good that you change, but in the beginning it was very important, the artisanal working with image in the laboratory, uh, and then this is at the same time, it was at the beginning of the 80s. I love cinema, and of course, there was no internet in that time. And I love and there are lots of cine clubs, is it? Cine clubs in my city, Belo Horizonte. And we use, they used to show a lot of cycles of new cinemas in Europe. You have the German new cinema, Fassbinder, Herzog, and Vivendas. Have Nouvelle Vague in Brazil. You have the Cinema Novo. I was very influenced by this kind of cinema, and cinema in that moment was very important for me because as there was no internet, the TV was something very poor. When we went to see a film in a cinema, there was a kind of a ritual that is difficult to find today. This ritual to see a film or to wait for a film, for example, the one from Godard, that the Salut Marie, for example. I remember waiting for uh, months to see this film, and it's completely different when you have this waiting to see something, and when you have access to everything like we have nowadays. And also another interesting is the quality of this ritual. The first thing is something that's almost disappearing. I've seen some here in Amsterdam, which I became happy, is the cinemas in the streets. It's not the cinemas in the malls, but it's, to go to a cinema is a very ritualistic thing for me. And when you go out, when you see a film and go out of a film, you stay with the film within you. It's exchanging, When you go out of a film in a shopping center or in a mall, you are completely seduced by the mirrors, by the consume, by the objects, by the smelling of this horrible popcorn in the outside. And then when you go out in the night in the streets, it's completely different traveling with the film in your mind. I have very strong memories of seeing some films, specific films, in some specific place with some specific people, very curious people, which is very important for me to discover that to see a film is something that you need to, or to make a film is to exchange it with the public. It's a continuation. No, the film is completely different, seen by each one of you when you see a film. That's the interesting of seeing artwork work. And so I was in this moment of discovering the world through cinema, and it was very difficult to be a filmmaker in that moment. There was no video cameras, only few, but it's very expensive to find 35 millimeters cameras in Belo Horizonte. Also to see the films in for example, documentaries or in these cine clubs was very important, but it's not now like it is nowadays that you can find everything. But I started making photographs and exhibiting photographs in that time, and then I moved to London in the 90s, and that was very important because I make contact with films exhibited in museums and art and in galleries, with the art world that I didn't have this contact before. And when I moved to London, it was in the middle of the 90s. It was very nice because I went there with my ex-wife, Yvonne Neuschwander, is also an artist. She's also an artist. And I didn't have much to do there. So I have to invent something to occupy my time. And I was fascinated by Super 8, and I have some cameras that my grandfather gave to me. And in London, you could find also the Super 8 rolls, Ektachrome, which I remember it was very interesting because they come in a kind of envelopes, and you send it to Kodak. You just put your name and the address and send it to Kodak, put in this box, and then the Kodak sent it to you one week later. And it was like sending me a letter every week. I just filmed ordinary stuff in my day-by-day life, like, I don't know, some flower that just cross the or some leaves that cross the apartment and comes and falls in the what's the name where you make pee pee?
The toilet.
The tap, no? Toilet, yeah. Or just a light that crosses in the wall. Some very expressive and minimalist events in my day-by-day life. And this accumulation of things, and I send it to Kodak. Kodak send it back to me, and I create, and I enter in a kind of cooperative, national filmmaker cooperative in London, where can I use Super 8 montage, when can I mount the films there, and it was very interesting because I discovered in that moment two things very important. One is that I can make films by myself, and I wrote a text about it called Kitchen Cinema. That's really real because I used to project the film in the kitchen of my house, and it's the way to make film very in a very artisanal is it exists? Yeah, artisanal way, and to show to my friends, and it was very good rituals to do these kinds of things. And then and the other thing is that in London I could see that there's not only cinema that project films, but also museums and galleries. So I could discover other artists that makes also films, and use audiovisual to make artwork, and I start being in contact with this artists and with this artwork, and in a way I start wanting to be a filmmaker, and by chance I became an artist. Because of these films I start making, some curators that I met in that time, they like a lot it, and they invite me to show it.
Okay, from what we've been listening to, and thank you for telling it in such detail, is that there's two themes I want to pick up on. One is your attention for the everyday, because you could have easily been interested in the architecture of London, but you were more into detail and the everyday, and maybe even the peripheral of side of things. So, what attracted your eye to those kind of events instead of the grand scheme of things?
I think laziness.
No.
Yeah, no, I think I think it's a moment that when you were born in a country, and when you go out to absorb and to know that the world is much bigger than you think that it was, that for you, and it was very important that time, because each micro event is very important and very subtle, and you pay attention in each detail of things. So it's a very important moment to discover that traveling is very important for my art, and I really like to create different quotidians in different places, and know the otherness, the people who are just speak different language, or in that moment, because I was much younger. Nowadays I can be different because it changed, But in that moment, it was very important to meet different people, to know that lives can be lived in different forms than yours.
I'm sure we get to talk to that a little bit more when we get back to the time when you returned to Brazil and
Hmm.
started making films there, when also kind of this renewal or this new encounter you had with your home country became important in making films. Um, Before we want to go to show some of your early Super 8 films, we decided that it might be interesting to go into this theme of seeing and not seeing, which is
Hmm.
like this long leading thread throughout your work. Like, what can we see, whether it's
Hmm.
detail or whether it's working with focus and out of focus,
Hmm.
and how, as observers, do we, as you said,
Hmm.
continue the meaning of an artwork. You made a project much later on in your life, which is called Histories of Not Seeing,
Hmm.
which sort of sums that all up. We have a little clip prepared from that. Do you want to introduce
Introduce.
that first, and then we'll
Yes.
watch the clip and we talk a bit more about it?
Okay. Yes, this project was a project that, because before going to London, I used to work a lot as a photographer. It was very important for me because I photograph everything, commercial photography, the journalistic stuff, or just objects, or marriage, weddings, births, everything. No horse, and it was for to catch the timing of photograph was very important. This commercial life before going to London, and it was my day by day life of every day photographing something that made me think about life without image, how it would be to experience reality through the other sense, because I thought image, even in that time, was very powerful, and you didn't use your other sense, because in the power, in the potentiality they can be, because of the powerful of image. So I decided for a project which it's I tried to experience some events without seeing, and the project, it's called Histories of Not Seeing, where I invite people, some friends, to kidnap me, and they kidnap me and take me to some thing, whatever they want to do with me, blindfold, and with a photographic camera, analogical one, with black and white films. And then I stay like 2 or 3 or 10 hours without seeing nothing, going to different forms of kidnapping, and photographing what my other sense tell me to photograph, what I smell, what I touch, what I listen, and then I photograph. And then after these different kidnappings, no, each one, when I come back home, I just write a text about my feelings, guided my other sense, without seeing the photographs, of course, because it would be processed after, no? And then I processed the photograph, and I made this book, History of Not Seeing, which is, I think there are 9 or 8 different kidnappings in different cities in the world. It was very interesting because, and also I made a video that you will see 5 minutes, is a 25 minutes video, but I don't have subtitle in this. There's some image of the kidnapping, but and my voice narrating the text, some of the parts of the text in the book, and unfortunately I don't have it subtitle. But maybe I can
But you
just
can
read
read
the
the text.
introduction.
You
Yeah,
can read the introduction, but also afterwards you can read the
I can
text
read the
about the
text about,
barbershop,
yes, of course. Yeah.
because the the introduction says dream and memory are forms of kidnapping, and then of course I was thinking, but then that means that cinema is a form, or seeing is a form of kidnapping
Yes,
too.
maybe. Everything can be for. Let's see the light here. Yes, I'm not. Well, it all began by accident. The swimming pool was empty on that morning. For some reason, not even the lane ropes that separated the swimmers from each other were there. Standing, standing on the edge of the end wall of lane 5, I was preparing to dive in. Nothing was moving except the clouds reflecting in the inertia of the water. When I hit the water, my body felt as I thought it were a stone breaking a mirror and the world splintered into 1,000 slivers. The idea, the idea of making this book, or the experience contained in this book, was the fruit of an athletic activity whose primary purpose was to bring about a little more fortitude to a body somewhat enfeebled by age. Excuse my English. When I registered for the morning swimming class, I could not have imagined that what began merely as an attempt to transform the remains of tobacco into muse to fortify my lungs and to strengthen the muscles would become the ticket to a much vaster world. To swim was also to remember my dreams. Contact with the water so early in the morning, my mind still empty, the synchronicity of arms, strokes, and my body gliding, the measured breathing produced a certain detachment from my more immediate reality. The more independent, reflexive my movements, the freer my thoughts, and the more unpredictable the associations between them. The water was apparently acting as a soothing element of the sometimes traumatical shocks with the strange and unknown. A succession of thoughts and association of images were so chaotic they could only be justified by the brief interference or confirmation that they were what I had dreamed the night before. Redreaming a dream, recently dreamed, replaying a dream amidst the white tiles in a box full of water, the filling me up and the emptying me out, surrounded by the voluptuousness of bubbles that flow out of my mouth like souls and words. Bubbles are like convex mirrors that dilate outer space, forming images. Bubbles are like the pupils. In the water, my eyes were closed and a profusion of bubbles flowed out of me. Between the sky and the tiles, my body filled with memories of recent dreams, a chaotic rendering of image and sound visiting me for a second time. Between one stroke and another, I tried to express through my submerged mouth the memory of a dream fragment, a single word, a sign, an image in the form of a sentence, telling dreams underwater, catching them inside bubbles, feeling sounds as matter and time, the dream time trapped in the reality of the bubble, the past, present, and future, compressed in the space of a simple moment, were ready to explode. Sorry, were ready to explode. I opened my eyes to see time explode.
Thank you so much. So because
It's
what you describe here, that's even, I mean, writers who write novels all the time find it hard. So I think you did really
Sorry.
well. Even writers, professional writers, find it hard. So I think you did really well.
Yes, in English, so difficult. I never read this.
Next
in
time you'll
English.
just do it in Portuguese and we
Yes,
listen to the sound. So what you describe here is kind of this real event of you going out to swim and
Mm.
sort of getting into this state where your conscious and your subconscious get into a dialogue.
Mhm.
The water is an important metaphor for you when you want to talk about different kinds of filmmaking and different kinds of immersion or distance or conceptualization. You want to talk about that now, the lake and the jump and
Oh,
the stone,
maybe. Yes, it's true.
because
We are in
it's
Amsterdam, lots of water
we're
here.
we're we're all about water here. So
Yes, that's because I think in Amsterdam everybody's more calm. I feel very well walking around this canal, And yes, we can talk about this metaphor. Yes, I was telling Dana before, because I create a kind of a metaphor to talk about my work, which is related to water as well. I told her that my main subject and the thing that is more important for me in film is reality. There are different ways of approaching reality. So different films or artworks comes from these different forms of approaching to reality. If you imagine reality like a lake, you can relate to it in three different forms. Or you just stay in the border, sit down in the border of a lake, contemplating the lake and the water. So there are some of my films very contemplative, like the window of my room, from the window of my room, which is in the exhibition with these two children playing together. It's like to be in the right moment, in the right place, to see this sublime scene. So there are works more contemplative. The second way you can relate to it is to just throw a stone in the lake, and a stone that is more like a concept or a proposition, and it's like a history of not seeing. That is a kind of a stone that you just throw it in reality, just to mix it, to disturb it, to change reality. A concept can change reality in a way. There are this work, and also you are going to have screened here in the cinema another work that's called Two-Way Street, where I change people. I exchange people from house, people that live alone, go to live for 24 hours in another people that they don't know. It's a very interesting project I made for the São Paulo Bienal in 2002, and for example, an architect and an engineer. The architect stay 24 hours in the house of engineer, and vice versa.
Vice versa. Yeah.
Vice versa. And the thing, they go with a camera and they film whatever they want. And then when I pick them up, I just ask them to say to the camera whatever they want. They think is the guy or the person who in which house they stay for 24 hours. And then I film. You in the film you have two screens: the house of the architect filmed by the engineer, and the house of the engineer filmed by the architect. And then you stay like, I don't know, 10 minutes looking to the house through the eyes of the other, and then disappear this image and appear the two face of both characters. One just looking to the camera. I ask them just to look to the camera, and the other saying something about who they think the other is, and vice versa. So it's very interesting because it's a complete different way to approach to a classical documentary history, that normally you ask people to say something about their lives, no? And in this film, you have three different forms to approach to the character. One is his house, that is being revealed by the eyes of the other. Of course, the language they put while filming the other house is also something that tells much about him. And the third one is when you say something about someone else, you say much more about yourself than when you say something about yourself. Because when you say something about yourself, you just protect yourself. When you say something about the other, you normally shows much more prejudice and things like that. So it's very interesting. It's just a stone that I throw in the reality of this person, these people, and it's a project that you can see here in the. So the third form of approaching the lake is just to jump yourself in the lake. You just jump in the lake in reality, and these works are more immersive. Exists this word?
Immersive, yeah.
Immersive works. For example, the long feature films that I go to the mountain and stay with an hermit, living with him 15 days, for example. You just immerse in a world that's not yours, and you exchange a lot. Of course, they are connected. All these three forms. Of course, while I am with him in a cavern, I have also my contemplative moments or my conceptual moments. But I think it's a very interesting metaphor to talk about different ways of approaching reality, making artworks. But we are saying about that to show something.
To go to histories
to
of not
history of not
seeing,
seeing.
which
Yeah.
I think comes from the swimming pool, and
Yeah.
maybe histories of not seeing started as a conceptual work by throwing a stone into the lake, but then in the end you had to jump yourself because you had to give over to the
Yes.
trust of the other people, be blindfolded, and have the camera look for you, which is maybe even a fourth way of doing something with the lake. We have to figure that out, but we'll think about it while we're gonna watch the first 5 minutes of Histories of Not Seeing.
Ele tinha era de que era assim, ele tá tirando essa pesquisa. Só era que tira esse cálculo aqui.
A memória é um lugar onde as coisas acontecem por uma segunda vez. E o que é um espelho se não um lugar e uma segunda vez? Não somos sempre dois ao nos olhar no espelho? Eu estava com certeza diante de um espelho e não podia me ver. Eu estava como cegos. Espelhos são coisas que não têm cheiro e não emitem sons. São coisas que dizem em silêncio e nos puxam sem nos tirar do lugar. Espelhos são como vertigens do espaço. Lembranças são como vertigens do tempo.
Manteiga, bem embaladinha assim. Manteiga nós vendíamos dois cruzeiros aqui.
Passos imersos em folhas secas são passos sem peso e sem pensamento. Também devem ser os passos nas nuvens. Passos para alguém que não tem desejo de chegar. Passos para intuir um espaço sem tempo. More real than these memories was the blade on my skin and the idea of a blind man in the mirror. Memory is a place where things happen for a second time. And what is a mirror if not a place and a second time? Are we not always true when we look at ourselves in the mirror? I was certain in front of a mirror, yet I couldn't see myself. I was like the blind. Mirrors are things that do not smell and do not emit sounds. They are things that speak in silence and they draw us without moving us from the spot. Mirrors are like vertigo of space. Memories are like vertigo of time. Yeah, that's the translation.
There's a lot going on there in that quotation that also relates to cinema. The first thing when I was watching this, what I was thinking was, it must have been like the Super 8 envelopes coming back from Kodak and opening them and watching the film being processed. Okay, this is what I filmed. So how was it for the first time when you saw the pictures you took as a blind man, you took without eyes, so to speak?
This
Yeah,
image.
I mean, what did you think? Like when you saw the pictures, did you had some sort of an anticipation or an
Okay.
idea of what would be on there?
It's really nice to listen some critics. They observe something that I never have. That of course is connected with the lettering of the Super 8 was fantastic, because this is something that we just we are is disappearing. You know, just the waiting moment of to see an image, which is very important, which was very important for me. The Because when you make a picture, you just don't know what is it, what you need to process it, and in the same time, it's a bit the same of being kidnapping, because you don't know what the image what you are experiencing. And I remember when I I I have processed the image, and after uh, writing the text, that something have connection, something not, which of course is normal, but the image brings me something very abstract in a way. It's completely different than the way I felt more freedom to write the text without seeing the image, feeling if I had the same experience while uh, uh, seeing the experience, I think I will be more less free than without seeing. That's something very interesting.
So when you talk about the mirror and sort of the memory and the mirror relating to space and time,
Hmm.
what is the film screen? Is that more a mirror or more a memory?
I think I think it's a good question. Let me think. I think it's both. No, I think memory is a kind of a mirror in a way. Your memories reflect something of what you are, and of course, if the screen of cinema, it's it depends for whom. For the spectator is one thing. For the spectator is one thing completely different than from for the author of the film, because for the author is more a memory, and and for the spectator is something different. It's more like uh, yeah, it can be connected with their memories also, but it's different, I think, because when you make a film, you have the memory of shooting, of experience this the moment while you are shooting. Editing is also another moment when you have reconnect when you are reconnected with the image, and when you project the film is also another moment. I think that when you make a film, there are three different moments, 4 different moments. When you imagine something, for example, I want to make a film about an hermit. When I imagine an hermit, you can imagine an hermit in different ways. You can create a world of an hermit, and when you go to meet an hermit, and you just it's a completely different moment because you disconstruct, disconstruct everything that you imagine. And everything that you imagine is an hermit is completely different in some ways. And then the third moment, you have also you have also the moment of edition is when you put language. So when you write the film, it's a kind of écriture of the film. Is during the edition. The chaos of shooting is reorganized in the edition, and then of course the film will be launched to the audience, that is the public, which is it's the main thing.
So let's go back to some of these memories, to some of the Super 8 films you shot when they were shot in London.
Yes. Yes, they were shot in London. I made some films in London with Super 8. This I think we have HYPNOSIS. They were not made in London, this one, but it was I made there 2 films that are not here: The Island and Between, Inventor of Little Death. But just after that, I start making films in Super 8 for the art world, and we are going to see 2 films made in Super 8 in Belo Horizonte, one and the other in a farm. It's HYPNOSIS and Nanofania, no? And yeah, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, we will show them back to back. It will talking a lot about seeing, but actually we should also talk about sound. And maybe these two films give a good opportunity to do that, because for those who've paid attention to the credits, they could have also seen that you work with the same group of musicians, Grivo, to make the sound design and the music. How important is sound, and at what point in the making of a film do you pair sound and image together?
Mm. Yeah, sound is, we make audiovisual, no? I am a visual guy, so I needed somebody, a sound person. In that case, there are two guys, Canarinho and Nelson, and we met for the first time in the my first films, and they are really important to me because they teach me how to lead with sound. I think cinema is sound and image. Sometimes we mix it and we put other things more in more relevance than image and sound, like words, like literature. The essentiality of literature is words. In cinema, it's sound and image. The ontologically saying about the essentiality of cinema, sound is very, very important. So I try always to play with these two elements, me and o Grivo. And sometimes there are different manners. For example, in this last film, Nanofania, it means the nano is micro, and fania is expression. So expression of minimum, the expressivity of the nano, the minimum, the micro. And this one is the only film I made after the soundtrack. I made the image for the soundtrack. And the other ones, I always talk to them. For example, the first one, HYPNOSIS, I just love the films or anything that has kind of what's the word? The repetition of things, but it's in a way of trance. I love transy artwork that install in you a perception of something that changes. If you are seeing a park at night, the lights of a park, I don't know in English, playground, I don't know.
Yeah, the playground.
The playground, and there's lights filmed in Kodachrome, which the red is very beautiful. And if you I ask them to make a soundtrack that can inspire a trance by the repetition of the sounds. And when I was seeing now the film, that a long time I don't see it, I thought about that because I was looking to a park, but suddenly it's transforming another thing. So you just forget that you were looking to a park. And I like very much this kind of things. When you just forget what about are you seeing. I think it's very
it also
interesting.
reminded me a little bit about the musical animations of the Canadian artist Norman McLaren.
No, fantastic, Norman McLaren.
So while you were sort of on your way of becoming a photographer and a filmmaker and a visual artist, were there any artists that specifically inspired you?
Lots of them. That's very difficult to talk about because it's changed a lot during your life. I remember in, I don't know, music, cinema, literature, art. For example, I can mention here just somebody who came, Sophie Calle, when I was in London. It was very important for me, just because she showed me that art can be mixed more with life and cannot be separate. And also, I love her projects, more conceptual artists that it's linked with her life. And of course, in cinema, I love the timing of Tarkovsky, of Belatar, of Sokurov, all these of Russian guys, fantastic Russian guys. And also the important new cinemas I told before, Antonioni, Pasolini, I don't know. There's lots of them. Yeah.
While we were talking, there was already a lot of stuff happening behind us on the screen,
Really? Wow.
collected in this
The
book.
Gambiarras stories.
Exactly. Could you tell us what we've been? Although they went very slow, so they went very trance-like.
Okay.
So probably the people in the audience are already in a kind of meditational state by now.
Yeah,
but what are we seeing?
It's better to see than to listen me talking about. But I can talk about the beginning of the process when I start to think about gambiarras. Gambiarra is a very particular name in Brazil, and of course you just seeing to the image you can feel what does it means. There's something that you improvise in a creative way to fix something or to. And I start collecting these gambiarras since I came back to Brazil in the late 90s from London. After 3 years from outside the country, I came back to make a film, my first feature film, which is called The End of the Endless, about professions in the countryside of Brazil that was disappearing. So I start traveling. I traveled for 2 months, 10 different states in Brazil, which is a kind of re-meeting my roots, and in a completely different way. I start to see exactly not, but my country, my culture in a completely different way. And the way, for example, these gambiarras, I met a lot of people doing these kinds of things and start collecting it, things that are very difficult to find in London, for example, because there are some societies that are you just put out things and buy new ones. You just you don't you have money to buy new ones, so you just throw it away and you can feel lots of different cultures, because I think you are seeing some gambiarras from Mexico, from Thailand, from different countries. They have different gambiarras. So you can travel through a culture, through the gambiarra, the way they make gambiarras also. Of course, in Brazil, we are the country of a gambiarra. Even the politician is the masters of the gambiarras in Brazil.
Improvisation or just sticking things together, or maybe
but not in a creative
not
way.
in a creative way. You mentioned Mexico. You made some works in Mexico as well. One of the works is in the exhibition, which is Sin Peso, which are the kind of the tent fields in the market. We decided on showing another film that you made there, Peyote. Could you tell a little bit what we're gonna see?
Yeah, but do you think they just finish
These will just
do you stay forever?
They will stay forever.
Okay.
People can come back to this cinema day and night to watch a toilet roll on a stick.
And I don't know how to make gambiarras. I only made one, which is a very good one. I don't know if you have seen, but it's the tijolo. What's tijolo? Anybody knows?
Here we need help. A brick.
To put vassouras Huh?
A broom.
Broom. Yes, the bricks with different rolls that you put brooms. It's a very nice gambiarra. You will see that sometime.
It will be
It will be here.
passing by.
But I'm horrible in making gambiarras, but there are people that are very good and very creative. And there are classical ones, no? The one for the people who used to put disco in the LPs on the arm of the player. Sometimes jump, no, because of so you need to put some weight coins or something. It's a
Lighters.
classical one.
Yeah. This is from the time when there was still Super 8. People had still had
Yeah, still have. Yeah.
disc players.
That's the kitchen cinema.
That's-
But about peyote as the name said, it's a kind of a drug they use in a ritual in Mexico, and it was a film. I just met these Indians making a ritual in the main square in Mexico, the DF. And there was this boy, fantastic boy, dressed like a Japanese, and he was, and the Indians was dancing, full of colors, it was very beautifully, and the child, the boy was completely in another trance, in another rhythm of dancing, completely. It was fantastic. I cannot say much. It's better
Okay.
for them to see. Then
Let's watch
yeah,
it
it's
and
better.
and
Yeah.
then talk a bit more about it. So we're gonna watch peyote. He not only acts like a Japanese superhero, but I think now for the first time I saw he has on his head a little Jesus portrait or something.
Oh, I
Has
didn't
he?
see it. Yeah, maybe.
I think so. Maybe or
Yeah, maybe
Mother
it's
Mary
it's
or
a
something like.
Mexican, but it
So
has
it's
his eyes like this. No, that because I wrote the synopsis, something like a Japanese hero, something like that. Yes, he's in a completely different trance. No, it was fine. The child, I like that. No, it's very free. The, their movements.
children are also kind of a recurring theme or visual motive in your work. Of course, in the exhibition, we can also see from the window of my room. What attracts you in these gestures, in these movements?
Freedom. I think children and old people are kind of human beings that are more connected with what comes before and what will become later after life. They are in these borders. I think adults, we are very without fun, I don't know, we are very useful for the society to survive. But children and the old people, I think Godard say something about that
He only made one film
one
about
about
adults
yes one
because they were too boring.
yeah. And I think it's true, it's a bit sometimes more expressive because they are in a way connected with something. Children are still connected with something that is not life before birth, which brings some strange power or in expressiveness. And also the old people are almost are connected with something that they don't know what we don't know what will be, and also brings some different light in their face, I think.
So is cinema also a way to connect not only to the not seeing, but also maybe to the not knowing or to these
I
other?
think so. Art is in a way that I love art because it's something that you is the main function it's a kind of transcendence with the spectator, with the dialogue about in my feeling when I make a film. Sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm doing. It's completely strange, and sometimes it's a kind of I feel that the artwork wants to fall down. It's a kind of entity, like in candomblé, we have the entities in the entities of candomblé. It's an African religion that we have a lot in Brazil. They want to come and they need the horse of saints that are the artists just to guide them where they want to go. And I feel sometimes like a horse of the saint. And something is something that you don't know exactly what is, but you need to have respect, and you need to have also a kind of sensibility to know where they want to go. This what where it want to go. So of course they want to go to the public and to exchange with the public in a way.
So from this idea of intuition and maybe even possession
Mm.
by the arts, we go to two of your more cerebral works, which are drawing and sculpting. Um, Together with two other films, you could say that maybe they are your short history or short art classes where you talk about what, in this case, drawing and sculpting are, and we return to Tarkovsky and his sculpting in time as a big influence. You want to say something before, or shall we just watch them? And
Yes, no, I think we should because there's not that much to say, but just the titles are is a very uh, is a film that make the connections between different arts, and I try to use cinema to think about drawing and to think about sculpture. Yeah.
And you will see how erotic it can be.
Yes, can be.
to shoot it for an hour, or did you know after 6 minutes it would be
I
enough?
don't remember. Maybe, yeah. I stay filmed a lot, but yes, you can see it for hours. But it's very voluptuous, no? Very sensual.
It is.
Yes.
So is sculpting in time and sculpting in cinema, is that for you like a sensual?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, sculpting. I just came from Munster sculpture project. Sculpture you can say it's a word. It's a very interesting word because sculpting you can sculpt everything. It's time. The idea of sculpting time that Tarkovsky brought to cinema, I think, is perfect because I was talking about image and sound. Cinema is made of image and sound, but of course the third element is time. Cinema is completely, and it's interesting because installations and these films that are relations between arts, I love it. Relations between drawing and cinema, sculpting in cinema, and and cinema changed very much. In the beginning of the cinema, there was the projection was in the middle of the room,
Yeah.
and people just stay completely staring of this strange projection, this strange machine, and putting light in a screen, and the space was much more revealed. You smoke in the cinema, and then they just hide the projection and dissolve the space, and cinema became a traveling in time, not in space anymore. And then 1 century and something later starts the installations that you need to think about space making film while making film, also how to install your work, so that's very interesting because in a way, because cinema is so, this is like a child. It's one compared with the other arts, is like a child in the childhood of cinema, and there are lots of possibilities. That's very interesting to connect with other arts and also with other sense. And that's I'm very curious about what's the future of cinema, because you can think of, and in fact I tried to put in image and sound a remote feeling of touch or smelling, and that's something that I really want to try to do. Depends the way you film something. You can almost smell something, and I think the connections between the sense are another thing that interests me a lot, and we will talk about Zoom Zoom Zoom, which is an installation that is about synesthesia, which is the relation between the sense. Yes, but before shall we talk more about anything, or we show
ask the audience, or to
yes,
show Zoom Zoom Zoom?
Yeah, because it's a little 10 minutes something. No?
We have 10 minutes of the film.
I can just explain what is Zoom Zoom Zoom.
We're gonna see it, and then we're gonna open up the film.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. So Zoom 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 is this film, as the name, it's an onomatopoeic way of saying about Zoom 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 is the sound. It's like a B sound, Zoom Zoom Zoom. And I made this project with Zabento, which is a sculpture, and is an installation that we were interested in the connections in the synesthesia of sound and color, and we just asked some musicians, more precisely 16 musicians that plays different instruments, to relate the sound of the instrument they play to a color, and to say something about that, why they think that this color referred to this instrument. And in this, and then I film. There is a film of 30 minutes with 16 musicians playing and saying about the relation between the color and the instrument. In a room you have this film. In another room you have 16. What the name of this thing you put the partiture of the music, the tripod with some
with the sheet music on
the
it.
sheet music. But this is they were made. Each of this tripod with the sheet music is related to one of the characters and one of the instruments, and we put some lights inside this tripod that is activated, and the color related to the instrument. So you enter in this room, and there are some cameras, some place that activate when you move in the space. They activate one of these tripods. So when you dance in the room, you start to activate the colors of the tripods and the sounds, because we recorded different musical phrase, and put in each tripod. So it's activate the color of, for example, the guitar is red, for example, and then you turn on the red light and the tripod of the red partiture with the sound of the guitar. And then you can, by walking the space, you can compose a music and activate the colors. I don't know if I was a bit confused.
I think
It's
we're
okay,
getting
no?
it. We're actually feeling like we want to dance now.
Yes, maybe.
So
The thing is that I forgot to take the making of this. Some people doing that. It was a pity. But we can see a fragment of the film where the musicians are talking about the relation between.
mostly playing, and we hear one person talking,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
you have to translate afterwards.
Okay,
again
I'll try.
what he was saying.
Eu tocando bombardino, eu me considero como se estivesse sozinho dentro de uma mata verdinha.
Esse bosque me lembra de uma cor amarela, que faz muita recordação de muita coisa. Tá? Do meu passado, né? Do meu tempo de mais novo, certo? Aí me lembra muita música antiga, tudo isso.
Vai, Geraldo.
Bom, eu sinto uma relação muito forte entre o piano, a maneira como o piano funciona, a própria forma como os sons se comportam no piano, em função dele dessa caixa de ressonância tão grande, um pedal que a gente pode controlar a maneira como ele vai ressoar, como ele vai repercutir. Para mim, isso parece muito com a maneira como... Isso me lembra a plasticidade da água, né? E se eu tiver que dar uma cor que se sobressai quando a gente contempla a água, e que eu tentei também expressar um pouco nessa música e que eu associo com o piano, seria um azul molhado, um azul, o azul que a gente vê quando a gente contempla um mar, contempla um lago num dia ensolarado. Acho que é isso.
It's the color of the Brazilian flag. The three characters. The last one was blue, the piano. That he remember more the wet blue. It's like it's beautiful wet blue, um azul molhado. And he said that the piano looks like the texture, the plasticity of water, and he tried to play some music that referred to it. And the other two, one was yellow. I think the first one was yellow, and it was the bombardini, this first instrument. That no, the first one was green, and remembering him, the bombardini, when he was in a forest, in a kind of a forest. So this was green, and the second one, the what's the name? Tuba. It's yellow because remember his childhood, and the memory for him is yellow.
Okay, so we actually picked the right three colors
Yes,
to
the Brazilian flag.
end with the Brazilian flag. There will be some time for you if you have questions or comments.
Sorry for not having
and-
bring the subtitle in English because we couldn't open the the folder, but it's good to listen Portuguese.
I think by now we've all learned some Portuguese by
Yes.
osmosis.
Hope
So, are there any questions you would like to ask? Maybe some of you've also seen the exhibition, so there's some questions you might like to ask about that.
It's gray. Yes, I think it's gray. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's something that between full and empty. I don't remember exactly, but he said a long. We didn't see now. No, he didn't say now, but I think it's gray. Something gray, almost dark.
Is there a connection for you between how you filmed these people and their color, or didn't you know before what color they were going to talk about?
No, I didn't know.
Because you film him with a lot of backlight.
Yeah,
so
but it was by chance completely.
That was by chance.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What was 16 musicians, different ones. There are others from samba, from more classical ones, from this interior band, and there was the oldest one, like almost 100 years old, play cavaquinho, the samba instrument, and it was guitar, and he said that was the arco-íris. What's arco-íris? The rainbow. It was the rainbow, and there was one that was no color. I don't remember what. I know that was one that was white. It was the flute. So it's beautiful because when the guitar in the installation were activated, all the colors appear, no? And you listen the guitar. Yeah, it's a pity that I don't have an image of the installation while the people start dancing or just walking around, and the composition appear by chance, which is a very important thing in my work as well.
The dance.
No, the chance, the azar, acaso. Like Camus said, just quote Camus because I love this phrase, that chance is the divinity of reason. I think it's very beautiful, this. The god of reason.
Yeah. So maybe if there aren't any other questions, we should just end with that and take that thought, okay, all of a sudden, yes.
It was I was married with Subrivani, and it's a very nice artist, and we start making films and with ants. So it was the second one, so with ants and bubbles and things like that in that time. And the first one was in Super 8 black and white. They just carry two words: word, world. They are fighting for these two words: word, world. Palavra Mundo. And then we decided to make the carnival stuff with the confits, because I don't remember why, but it was some desire to make some, to bring some elements of very colorful elements of and work with circles, and we decided to imagine a carnival in the after the human carnival, if the ants just come and take the confits to make their carnival inside their house. And then I should lie to you. I should have lied to you that I have seen they play in carnival, but it's not true. It was just a seduction.
But we just don't believe you. We think you found this. So you can lie all you want.
Okay. As I can lie that from the window of my room, it was two actors that I put there to play this dancing. No?
So there was another question over there.
8 films since this first one, The End of the Endless. And there is one, the last one we didn't, I'm just finishing, is a film about waiting. And there is one that I didn't had subtitle. That is a film about a tarologist who plays tarot and who woman who just make consult playing cards for people by telephone in Uruguay. It's very interesting. But this one I didn't have in English, only in Spanish. The subtitle in Portuguese because speaking Spanish. But there will be 8 films. One I told about it was Two-Way Street. This that people change house, and there, you have seen. There will be again the last one. It was The Man of the Crowd. It was screening on Saturday. Yeah.
All the films I think will screen at least
Twice,
and there's
yes.
a brochure you can find at the box office.
Some documentaries, some fictions, some strange films like Two-Way Street that starts like an installation, as an installation for the São Paulo Bienal and then transform into film.
Any other questions? Yes?
Yes, it has an effect, of course, because I start to become more more like propositive and like wanting to slow down each time more, just to provoke the public to remember that there's different timings in our life. So each time more, I love to slow down the image and to try, because of course we have if you don't have almost nothing happening in the screen, there is the grain just exploding there that is something so expressive, and the leaves falling down the trees is so expressive, and also there's not only action, is not only sex, violence, and I don't know. Action is drop of the rain is an action. So it's why not? Why we are just forgetting these things, no? And of course, my last film is about waiting. A thing that we almost don't know anymore how to do. Yeah, it's difficult to wait, no? Each time more. I think people are just stay working the mobiles while waiting and cannot stay just waiting. It's a pity because I think these moments that nothing happened, it's so important, so important. Even I can feel that in while I'm the best moments when I have the best ideas, it was when I was doing nothing. It's very important. We can for the word ócio, which means, do you understand what's ócio? Doing nothing? Idleness. Ócio in Greek means school. The word escola, which means school, means ócio in the beginning. So we just put the way we just it's completely the contrary that the school is nowadays, isn't it? Because ócio is in Greek, in antique Greek, is some place to do nothing.
Wow. Let's go to
It's
school.
perfect. No, but awesome has another meaning. No, but awesome is, yeah, of course, it's very significant. I think this. No, there are completely different moments. Some works, of course, they are. I have. I think the another another word that is very important. I don't know what espanto. My friends from Brazil, huh? Amazement, espanto. It's a very important thing that achieve desire. When you have when you spant with something, we are just like that something spant you. It's not amazing. Amazing is a bit different, I think. Yeah, surprise and something like that. I think it just attach desire, and then you just want to communicate, to transform it in something. And it just can be like a thing that is just happening in front of you, like from the window of my room or peyote, and you just take your camera and record it, or you can just prepare and you can try to conceptualize, or can write about it, and then for biggest projects, of course, you need to write to get money and this kind of thing. And it's a very interesting process also, because you need to think about something. While I was writing about waiting, I need to read lots of things, philosophers about time, waiting, blah, blah, blah. And it's a nice, I normally, from my feature films, I almost never do scripts. Sometimes I do lots of I read a lot about subject. I prepare myself, and also I prefer to. Normally, I prefer to make a travel script than where I'm going to film, than the script of what will going to happen. It's another link with chance, because I love chance, and I love the process of making something. Is a process that you can be connected with this entity and with chance. Chance is very important, because if you make a script, you in a way you jail in a bit. You are less open for chance to arrive. I don't know. It's my case. They're completely different filmmakers or artists. No? Yes, maybe. Yeah. But gambiarra is of course, I am a gambiarrero, because the way I make films is not the proper way of making films, completely different. And in the way, yes, for sure, I think it's better to try to invent and to create your own way of making things than to repeat another way that you like. It's better that you be completely lost while trying to create something new than to repeat some formula that is already done.
Thank you so much, Cao Guimarães, for
Thank you.
sharing all your stories and your films with us. It was a pleasure to have us here. For those of you who are interested in the program, there's a brochure at the box office. There's an exhibition going on, and there will be 2 more specials where we will be talking about the works of the artists in the Locus program and exhibition with some scholars. One of them is here, Matthijs van der Port. We will be talking more about Cao's work and about Brazil, and Matthijs' own work as an anthropologist in Brazil. So please join us for that one if you're interested in Brazil. Cao, thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, everybody.